It's my pleasure to introduce then Russ Young to give a presentation on the West Virginia's Agricultural Enhancement Program. Benefits for landowners. Russ?
Well, thank you, Ray. I appreciate the introduction. As he said, my name is Russell Young, and this is with a last name like Young for 38 years. This is probably the first time I've been asked to go first in anything. So I do appreciate that opportunity, Ray. We're going to go ahead and get started today. We're going to be talking about West Virginia's Ag Enhancement Program, and I want to do a special thanks there for Amy Figgett. She presented for you earlier today. She put together this presentation for us today, and she did an excellent job. So thank her for that. We're going to be talking today about urban ag within the Agriculture Enhancement Program of West Virginia. And first, we need to start off by defining what Agriculture Enhancement Program, or AgEP. We love our acronyms, don't we? AgEP. So the AgEP program is a cost share program where we provide technical and financial assistance as an incentive to implement conservation BMPs, or best management practices. Everybody's going to say BMP a lot today, so let's just go ahead and start off by defining it. The overall primary objective of the AgEP program is probably a lot like everyone's objective here and a lot of our presenters. We're really trying to reduce the nutrient runoff. We're reducing sediments from entering our streams. And as a side effect of that, really as far as our cooperators and our farmers, the side effect of that is we're increasing farm profitability and sustainability. So it's a really nice symbiotic relationship we have with our cooperators. The AgEP program in West Virginia is administered through the 14 different conservation districts with the assistance of the WVCA, or the West Virginia Conservation Agency staff, myself. And each conservation district is allowed to select their programs they want to run through AgEP. Currently, there's about 28 different BMPs within Ag Enhancement, and each district picks what they want each year to tailor what they offer their districts based on their district needs. So District A might have 5 programs, and District B might have 5 different programs, and District C might have 13 programs. It's really what fits best within that district, and that's decided by the supervisors, the elected officials. I'm waiting for that delay. Sorry, I'm a fast talker, and I just want it to go. There we go. Sorry. So when you think of West Virginia, the first thing that comes to mind is probably not the word urban. When I think of West Virginia, it's mountain mama and country roads and all of that. And urban agriculture probably isn't the first thing that comes to mind. But according to the U.S. Census, over 80% of the nation's population is contained within these urban areas. And that's really no different for West Virginia. Like everywhere else, we have concentrated areas of populations, and the urban ag program is really geared to those smaller landowners. When we talk about urban agriculture, we're not talking about measuring things in acres. We're talking about measuring things in square feet. So when we talk about the benefits of the urban ag program, when I talk about our traditional agriculture enhancement programs, when we talk about those side effects, I mentioned side effects earlier. I love that as an analogy. In traditional AgEP programs, our primary objective through the conservation agency is we are wanting to keep soil where it belongs, in the ground. We want to keep sediment out of the streams. We want to keep nutrients from getting into our streams. And you know what? That's really no different than what we're doing in urban agriculture. We just have different side effects. In the traditional farm, the side effect is we have more forage production, we have increased profitability, we can put more cows per acre, etc. But in urban agriculture, the side effects are different and quite unique for that program. We want to talk about soil conservation and water quality education, and that's a huge one. A traditional AgEP practice that I put on the ground, I can spend $6,000 in implementing a few BMPs on a farm, and I can educate that farmer and his family, and he can go on and use that. The student becomes the teacher, and he can pass that on, that information and that lessons that we have been able to teach him. He can pass that on, and we love that word of mouth, right? That's really where we get a lot of our input and a lot of our production value is from the people we've done programs with. Well, I can take that $6,000 that I helped with that one farmer, and as far as education, I can take that and do 30 practices in urban agriculture, and I can affect 30 families, and I can educate 30 families, and those 30 families can then go on and educate other families and have that trickle down. That's one of the huge benefits, or side effects rather, of doing what we want to do as an agency. We want to keep the soil in the ground, improve water quality, keep the sediment, keep the nutrients out of the stream. But the side effects are really where the society benefits, and urban agriculture is no different. We have land revitalization, we have fresh and healthy and safe foods. Victory Gardens made a huge comeback, and I know there's going to be other talks today about the COVID response. Um, and what we've been doing and how things have changed with us. And one of the big factors is healthy and safe foods. And I know there are a lot of you that probably know these stories, but in West Virginia, we had some areas with food shortages. We have certain counties that don't even have a grocery store. So the side effects of an urban ag program is we're providing that fresh, healthy food. We're looking at those food deserts, and we're providing a place where somebody can grow something and eat something. And potentially sell something. I mentioned Amy earlier. She worked with a veterans group a couple of years ago doing a carrot project. These were veterans, these were not farmers. They were growing raised beds in their backyards, and they grew different varieties of carrots in the state capital in Charleston, West Virginia. And they were able to take those carrots, form a co-op, sell them to local restaurants, and make a profit off of urban agriculture. So there is those opportunities available to actually make a profit out of this. And generational gardening. I mean, this is a big thing, because most people that work in agriculture came from agriculture. I didn't realize that's not a hard yes, but most of us grew up, and I grew up picking beans on the swing with my grandma and stringing beans, and gosh, that was awful, and I didn't do a good job of it. But we had that experience because we grew up on farms. If you grow up in an urban setting, you're not going to get that opportunity. And one of the things that urban agriculture programs allow is for somebody to have that experience, to be able to do that. Even though they're not growing up on a farm, they can still have that generational experience, and that is absolutely fantastic. Um, so I'm waiting for the slide. There we go. So the Urban Ag Guide, one of the things that we wanted to do is a lot of our AgEP programs and a lot of our the way it's set up is, let's be honest, it's pretty dry. We have a lot of specs and programs and BMP installations that we all do. There's not a lot of ways you can hype up spreading lime or installing a water trough. But in urban agriculture, we do have a different demographic that we're looking at. So we're looking at updating and creating this entire urban guide, this urban agriculture guide, sorry, to be able to reach out. That's very visual, that's very easy to understand, we want people to succeed, and we want to use this as a tool for their success. So the 14 district conservation specialists that we have are creating the technical specs for all these BMPs, which, by the way, there's about, I think, 16 BMPs within urban agriculture itself. So we're creating spec sheets for all of those. We're giving those to our outreach specialist, and she's going to be able to take those and create the booklet with those technical aspects, the guide. Sorry, I had to take a drink. So with that guide, we're going to be able to update that yearly, and we're going to be able to take the guide and get it out there so that it's easy to use and easy to understand. And I click and it just doesn't go for me right now. Thank you. So what can we expect out of the Urban Ag Guide? We're going to have obviously a printed version, but what we're really excited about is the electronic version of the guide. And the guide's going to contain links to instructional videos. Now, most of the time when something goes wrong in my house and I've got to fix something up, I am not Mr. Fix It, let me tell you that. But what I do is I go on, I find a YouTube video, find somebody with the same problem, and watch how they fix it, follow what they do step by step, rewind it about 3,000 times till I get to the end point, which is I fixed my problem, or I've given up and had to hire somebody. I hope it doesn't come to that. So what we want to do is have a video series based on the installation of all these urban ag projects. We want to basically give everybody as many tools as possible for success. And that's going to start with the guide, with the links to the videos, with the updated information and the materials that are within the guides if you don't have access or can't bring up the videos. And one of the cool things is we're going to have some cross-referencing with the other AgEP programs. So if a gentleman does an urban ag program, he doesn't have a farm, but he goes on and he sees the website and he sees the guide and he sees all these links and other information. He might have a family member that has a farm. He says, hey, by the way, you should check this out. They're doing things on farms. You might be interested. It might be right up your alley, something to help you. I get people in every year that they've had farms. I know them for years. They have farms. They come into the office. Go, you work here? Yeah. Well, what are you doing here? Well, I never knew this existed. How long you been doing that? Oh, 50, 60 years. I mean, we've been around, but we're like one of the best kept secrets here that we have here in West Virginia or in these districts that I work in. If we go to the next slide. Um, so what's going to be included in the guide? Obviously, the contact information for the conservation specialists when we're looking at contacting information and giving everybody the tools. Hey, contacting with me and the other conspecs that work in West Virginia is number one. We want to make sure we're available, we're accessible, and they can ask us questions. We want to have completed projects. We want to have completions, not cancellations. We want to empower our cooperators, urban or otherwise, to be able to access us and have completed projects and programs. We want to empower them to succeed. And this is all going to be part of that. We call that the conservation connection. We're going to have detailed information on the construction. So it's not just going to be the YouTube videos. In the guide itself, handwritten out with drawings, photos, step by step. Again, here's how you get from point A to point B. Here's how you get it done. And we want to empower everybody that does these programs to succeed. We don't want cancellations. We want BMPs on the ground. We want our money to be effective in what we're doing. And we also want those side effects to happen too, because that's really special with urban agriculture. If we have any more questions, I would gladly take those. Also, if you want to get into more detail with ag enhancement or urban agriculture, you can email me at ryoung, Y-O-U-N-G, at WVCA.us. I'll be glad to take those. That last photo is there of me and my kids. You know, we have a farm. We've got horses and cows and mules and donkeys and everything else. But when COVID hit and they sent the kids home, I grabbed up some garden bags. We threw it in our driveway. We're growing produce. We're growing crops. I'm teaching these kids. They're planting. They're watering. They're investing themselves. The payoffs are tremendous. And how awesome would it be? And I have those opportunities elsewhere, but we can bring those opportunities to an urban population who might not otherwise get it, and also achieve the goals that we set as conservation districts and agencies. And I think it's fantastic. Ray, I'm going to turn it back over to you, buddy.
Thanks, Russell, and such a good presentation, and what an ending that builds on our first session that we had this morning, where we were talking about our next generation of conservation folks. And so we do have one question I'm going to give to you, and then I'm going to move on to our next speaker. Jonna, get ready. We'll be moving to you in just a bit and handing you the mouse control. Will the guide include urban stormwater practices like rain gardens, et cetera, that aren't typically agriculturally connected?
Well, that's funny you mentioned that because I have demo right now. The rain gardens and some of those stormwater programs aren't part of the urban ag program, but I have in my district I'm running a demo project on a couple of those aspects of stormwater protection. And from those demos, we're going to gather information to try to start implementing some of these stormwater practices and be a part of urban agriculture. So that's a perfect example of ways that we're continuing to grow the program and try to nail down a way that we can get that to the masses and have it so that they can successfully do those projects. So yes, it's in the planning, and we are doing demonstrations right now to work toward that goal.